Welcome back to Litter Book Club. I'm John.
I am Matt.
And we finally got to see Jojo Rabbit.
I know. I'm really excited that it finally came to Nashville.
We've been waiting for a while. I mean,
Yeah.
It came out several months ago now.
No, I think it was about a month, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like
several
forever.
months.
I mean, I know it's been around for a while. We've been talking about it, wanting to see it. Finally it came, so let's go ahead and get down to it and our review. We aren't going to say anything, we aren't going to spoil anything, but this is our general review.
And we will have to talk, obviously, about the broad historical stuff, so I think you know what happened.
If you don't know history, spoiler alert.
Right.
Anyway, so let's just jump right in. First and foremost, this is a really character-driven movie, so we can't really talk about it without talking about the acting in it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, for you, what stood out as far as acting and actors? I mean, this had a great cast.
Right. Well,
stellar cast as far as big names, but also some fresh faces.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing that surprised me, well, there's two big surprises. We've talked about them a little bit, before we got on camera. But the main, kind of surprise that stuck out to me was I didn't really realize how just good of an actor Taika Waititi was. I knew he was a great director, but I just didn't understand.
I mean, he in his previous roles, you have Korg out of Thor Ragnarok, and then you also have What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, I'm sure he's been in other stuff.
And other things, but in those kind of two prime ones that I think most people who are familiar with him have seen, he's really good at humor, and he's good at deadpan kind of humor too. But in this, you do see an interesting range of him playing really quirky to something more serious.
For sure, definitely more serious. Just the whole emotional, obviously his comedic timing is going to be great. I think it was probably the best that it's been that I've experienced, I guess. But besides that, just like you said, the seriousness of what he does at certain parts is just, it kind of blew me away that he was, he's directing this movie and he's that good. I will say, I don't think this is necessarily a spoiler, it's just a, kind of an observation of the movie. He is used a lot more sparingly than I think I maybe thought initially from the commercials.
From the trailers, you might think, so obviously this thing's about a little boy who has been influenced by the propaganda of Nazi Germany and the Hitler Youth and all that, and so he has an imaginary Hitler friend.
Yeah.
And so in the trailer, the way it shows it, you think he's there almost all the time.
Right.
But you're right. He's there at the beginning pretty heavy, but as the movie kind of progresses, he's a little more sparingly, and it's apt for the way the progression of the
narrative
plot
goes as well. The other big surprise, and you can elaborate more on this, but the child acting was great. The Jojo, the main kid, was excellent.
He did an amazing job, and then you also have the actress who plays his soon-to-be friend, that lives in the house,
and
sort
that's
of in secret.
All in the trailers,
right? So you have both of them are great actors, and their dynamic together is really a central part of this movie.
For sure.
I think their dynamics together, it's basically him with her and then him with his mom, played by Scarlett Johansson.
She did an excellent job as well.
Amazing all the way around. Character-driven story can't be done without really good character acting. Yeah. And then the background is really, the backdrop is set Sam Rockwell, awesome. Alfie Allen, and then a host of
Rebel Wilson.
Rebel Wilson.
She was used sparingly in a good way.
But when she was there, her character moments were really good
for sure.
So anyway, the acting superb,
spot on. I guess the biggest thing to go to now would be just the overall story.
This story is really unique, and it has. That's to be expected if you know Taika. And his style, it's going to be a really unique take on something. And, I could probably guarantee you that you will never see a World War II movie like this, let alone a movie about anything that takes it in this way, especially something as serious as what this child has to go through in the world that he lives in. And, knowing the historical context of this is something you kind of figure out more in the movie. It doesn't really say in the trailers, but it is at the tail end of World War II.
Yeah.
And so that adds another dynamic to the Nazis are not only still like trying to influence people, especially mold the young minds of this kid, but
they're just trying to hold on to
they're still trying to hold on to power, and they're losing, and people know they're losing.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that plays into this story. So it really has this interesting dynamic. To me, if I were to categorize it as anything, this is really like a loss of innocence story.
I can see that for sure.
I mean, you have a kid who identifies himself with what the propaganda has told him he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then it's, through different key stages of the movie, he comes to question that.
Right.
In a way that only a 10-year-old can question things, right?
I mean, for sure.
He doesn't know how to be subversive. He doesn't know how to ask really complicated questions, but he sees what's going on in the world, and he's wrestling with it.
He's figuring it out.
And so that's what really is, when we talked about, the Adolf, imaginary Adolf character, and the complexities that go on. It really is that dynamic of seeing the internal struggle of the kid.
Right, because, I mean, it's obviously his imaginary friend, so it's like a version of his self-conscious, to a certain degree, how it's, it's how it's kind of evolving as, and there's also an interesting, I hope this doesn't give much away, but there's an interesting kind of like what we were saying, how people know they're losing. There's almost an interesting mirror between the character, and I'm going to be as broad as I can, but the character of, Taika Waititi, the imaginary Hitler, how he's kind of adapting along with this, almost the same external situation that's going out in the world. You know what I mean? I don't know if I can really say that. I don't want to. I don't want to give much away.
As the experiences of the kid start changing him, things also are happening with his imaginary friend, and he is an imaginary friend. Like, that's never in question in this movie,
for sure.
Because of it's this really weird blend of kind of historical facts that you would know generically about him, but also like whimsy. Like just complete whimsy that happens in certain parts of the movie that is just, that kind of draws out the absurdity of everything.
Right, for sure.
So to kind of go with the plot, the backdrop I think was one of the best things done in this, because everything in the backdrop that shows Nazism, the party, the Gestapo, all of that, it really does a great job of subverting them. Yeah, like it shows them as their most absurd versions of themselves.
Absolutely.
And they're really ridiculous people who are spreading just the most absurd, crazy lies about their enemies, while like holding on to this really delusional view of themselves. And I think one of the best gags, if you want to call it a gag, in there is in a particular scene where you have a whole bunch of them coming in together. Classic movie, Spy Like Me.
Yeah.
Where they're in the hospital tent pretending to be doctors, and all of a sudden all the doctors come in. They spend 10 minutes saying doctor.
Right.
And they do a similar. They do a similar kind of thing with that, and so it's hilarious. Yeah. But it's not something that feels forced. It just it's a great thing that just grows out of the moment.
It really, it's a great movie. And so I guess probably the last thing, the big staple that we could talk about would be the cinematography.
Yeah. For me, the cinematography was really great. It was very aesthetic. The colors, the shots, everything was really, capturing a lot of mid to wide range views of things.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it really let you see this world. And I think what you had mentioned in our previous conversation was that you got to see like a progression of, in the earliest parts of the movie, everything looks really bright and fresh and clean. I mean, they're in the woods.
Like the viewpoint of the kid's eyes almost.
And then by the end of the movie, you're seeing like rubble and ruin and pieces that are war-torn.
Right, for sure. I think they're... And because we don't want to go, this is spoiler-free, and maybe we've given more than we need to on this, but I think there's so... Like, if you really watch this, and I want to watch this again, maybe not in theaters, but definitely when it comes, to the home, I'm going to watch it multiple times. But I think that there's a lot of... I'm trying to think of the right word, but there's a lot of... what is the word? There's a lot of different things going on underneath the surface that it's mirroring.
Subtext?
Yeah, subtext maybe. That's probably the right word, but you're seeing a lot of different things that are happening, and the cinematography is going the same way as the story within the the characters with him being a his imaginary friend and what's actually happening. I just think that there's a lot of
there's visual details.
There's layers.
Right. There's visual details that definitely like support the narrative in different ways. So like, and that's something you don't get in every movie.
Yeah,
like in some movies, like you could mute it and just know what was happening without hearing the dialogue. But in others, like you could mute it and not know what anything is happening because everything's in the dialogue. Right. And this has like a nice striking balance.
Yeah, for sure.
Where if you were just to kind of like cover your ears and just watch, you would get a real sense of things that are happening and where the story is turning.
Right.
But
you would definitely want to turn it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it would just be so appealing or visually like interesting.
And it's visually interesting, and the dialogue and the storytelling in general is really good.
Well, I think it's about time.
Yeah. So do you want to?
Yeah. Well, for me, my number, I'll give it really high up there. I mean, it's really a great movie. It's hard to nitpick on this movie. I'm not going to say it's a perfect movie for me. I think artistically, there's a lot of great things that they do. So but I guess just from a matter of personal taste, I think I would probably give it, I'd say a 9. That's pretty high up there.
Yeah, that's really high up there. And for me, I'm right up there with you. To me, when I try to gauge how much I like a movie, I love quirkiness.
Yeah.
I love things that just catch you off guard, that just come at you from a way that you never thought you would see them. Mm-hmm. But also, I really appreciate people who you can tell they're doing exactly what they mean to do.
Right.
You can tell when someone's really thought something through and really honed it and really worked it, and this is what I think this movie is. I think this is like one of the best movies I've seen in a long time.
Really?
As far as the intention of it and the balance of humor and seriousness.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give it a 10 because
the perfect ding ding ding. We should have some kind of
perfect. I mean, I don't do that for many movies.
No, I since we've started this channel, I haven't heard a 10 out of it.
Yeah, and it's really hard, and it's one of those just like.
I don't
think
the Joker got a 10. Did it?
I don't think the Joker did get a 10, and maybe the only reason the Joker didn't get a 10 is because the Joker
is heavy.
Is really heavy.
Yeah.
And this takes no less heavy material, but handles it in a way where I feel like I could go back and watch this multiple times and still enjoy it, but still have the same sort of emotional swings that happen in it.
And since it is layered, I think you could get more and more out of it by watching
absolutely
more and more times.
And so I mean that's anyway
a big recommendation for both
huge
of us.
For us.
If it hasn't came to your town yet, it's going to be on the lookout for this. If you have seen it, drop in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts. Maybe you agree with us, maybe you don't. Give us some of your opinions about it. But also try to keep it spoiler free. Like and subscribe. Do all the stuff.
Yeah.
And
we'll see you next time.
See you.